and we'll just be chatting in conversation for a little bit. And then the floor will be open. Throughout, if you are prepared or want to do some preparation now, you can look around, find something to show and tell. Chatting in conversation. And what you can do if you would like to volunteer to show and tell something is at the bottom right of your Zoom screen, just click on the Q&A button and type into that whatever it is you would like to share. And Layla and the BMI people will be pulling you up to, I guess, the virtual panelist stage towards the end, and you'll have a couple minutes to do your show and tell. So I'll chat out a reminder for that in a bit. Okay, so now for the co-panelists. Let me find the bios. So we have Jasmine, Jamila, Mahmoud. I'm really excited to have Jasmine here tonight. Jasmine is my longtime friend we met in middle school. And she is an arts writer, curator, and assistant professor in the Department of Performing Arts and Arts Leadership at Seattle University. She researches and writes about Black aesthetics, contemporary performance, race, arts and cultural policy, and urbanism. She's currently a governor-appointed Washington State Arts Commissioner. She received her PhD in performance studies, MA in arts politics, and BA in government. Welcome, Jasmine. And we have Hallie Nickerson. I met Hallie a few years ago at Vermont Studio Center, and I'm excited to have her here today. She's a multidisciplinary artist, originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, currently living and working in LA. She earned her MFA in Fine Arts from Parsons The New School for Design and her BA in Art Practice with a minor in Ethnic Studies from UC Berkeley. Her photography, video, film, sculpture, installation, and performances explore race, gender, desire, power, and the complexities and slippages of identity. And last, we have Matt Yoka, whom I've also known for quite a while from back in LA, 826 LA days. Welcome, Matt. Director and producer Matt Yoka began his career making TV programs with Vice Media. He developed a distinct visual style directing music videos for record labels like Drag City and Sub Pop, collaborating often with Ty Segall. His first feature documentary film, Whirly Bird, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival earlier this year. And before all that, he got a master's degree from USC's Annenberg School of Journalism. So welcome, everyone. And so what we're going to do is start with our show and tells, and I think we have Hallie going first.
Hi, everybody. So my show and tell is has a few components, but they're all small. So 1 second. So this is the first part of my show and tell. It's a hair clip. And I guess I'll brief it and then move to the next thing. Or actually I'll show all of them and then talk about after. And then my next show and tell is not an object, but a digital or a meme. I don't know, digital object. But it looks like this. And then it's just this evolution of this meme that was circulating online. And I don't know, it was backwards to the screen, but it basically says, it's like this hand in water, and then the hand, over the hand, it says Black women dealing with trauma and suffering. And then society like reaches out, but then society like high fives and then says, "You're so strong." And then the hand just goes like, because it didn't reach out and help it. And then the last part of my show and tell are just like a few lines from this poem / script for like an upcoming project. But basically, I'll just read it. It says, "Even so, we continue moving, we continue shaking, tired and all, tired and all. We know the universe, what matter is, us, some more, to know existence and non-existence at the very same time, endlessly." And I guess the reason I started with the clip is just in terms of my practice and thinking about intimacy, performance, and spectacle. I think I am like always like kind of grounded in not just hair, but just thinking about the intimacy and the labor and the upkeep and all of these things that come together in the maintaining of Black hair, and my experiences with that, and these clips and things that I've always kind of used. And also thinking about, you know, the thinking about like maintenance or upkeeping of an image, or the performative or performance aspect of, you know, doing your hair or having it done. I always think about that. And then with the meme, I've been doing a lot of endurance performances. And I think that the meme for me, I guess in my head, I feel like all of it's kind of linked a little bit, but in terms of the meme, it feels like a very, very brief image synopsis of what I kind of explore in my practice. Not entirely, but especially it felt like a layer to like what I'm interested in endurance performance is like thinking about, there are moments of intimacy when I perform with another performer, and there are elements of the spectacle with the viewer, this on looking onto the body and this on looking onto this like strenuous, like this strenuous act, and not necessarily act, just like this strenuous holding and continuing on, and the viewer, like there's just so many layers of like the viewer continuing to just watch and kind of gawk at the spectacle, kind of, you know, like a lot of things that I don't know. I just see so many links with a lot of things in history and recent culture. And then in the last part of my show and tell, I feel like it is linked because that poem and script came out of this endurance performance that I did and I'm still working through, called Lean on Me. And it was basically me and another performer. We were back to back, and we basically just held the pose and leaned on each other for a very long period of time, for like an hour, with no breaks, and just thinking about that in relation to Blackness and intimacy, and this continuation, and these ideas of holding on and continuing to hold on. And yeah, I don't know if that was like too scatterbrained, but that's where my mind's at.
That was awesome. Thank you, Holly. So I'm going next, and my show and tell is, I guess I didn't really try this out. it's this poster. It doesn't, whoa. I really did not try this out against the background, but I guess, oh, there you go. There's not really anything to see that you need to see. But it's basically, it's like this piece of pink paper, right? And I'll just describe, I guess, what's on it. It's a piece by Bruce Nauman called Body Pressure. And it's I guess it's a poster that I got from I think it's like the basement level of Dia Beacon in Beacon, New York. And I have it here in my apartment in Vegas, and not really intentionally. I think I was packing up all my stuff when I was moving out of New York, and I just threw it into a box that was labeled as my Vegas stuff. But I put it up on my fridge here, and because there's a lot of white space here when you and what is on the poster is like a set of, I guess, instructions. I can read the first one. It says, press as much of the front surface of your body, palms in or out, left or right cheek against the wall as possible. Press very hard and concentrate. So it's this list of instructions for your body against a wall, which can also be done in the museum space where it's originally displayed. And I sometimes, I mean, it's hard to have something up like this and ignore its instructions. So I sometimes do it here, like just on the blank wall next to the fridge. And I guess I would just pick this because it's interesting to think about this as a performance piece, but also as one, like what kind of a performance is it if nobody else sees it, especially right now. I don't know. It's also like a kind of an exercise, I guess, in intimacy or eroticness even. The instructions kind of go on to, you like press your body against the wall and imagine your body pressing against kind of another of your body. And the very last line is, this may become a very erotic exercise. But to think about the body, I guess, as doing this performance in isolation, and what it means to kind of think about touching someone else or just touching any body right now, like in this period of, I guess, extreme isolation. Like oftentimes I just, I'm like here by myself. I don't touch anyone for like months on end, right? So this little performance, I guess, which were it to be done in the museum or out on the street, it kind of feels like it would be a spectacle, but in the kind of in the weird corners or confines of my apartment, it feels like something else, or maybe something additional. Okay, I think Matt is next.
Hi, Bonnie. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you guys too. It's good to be connecting in one way or another. And right, what I do and how that overlaps with the themes that this conversation's about is really interesting to me, because I don't know if I would have used if somebody had asked me what I've been working on the last couple of years, I don't know if I would have said necessarily spectacle and intimacy paired together exactly like that, but that's exactly what I've been working on. And so it's an interesting way to evaluate what it is I've been obsessing with the last couple of years. And what that is a movie that I made called Whirlybird. And that's about the careers and the relationship of a husband and wife news gathering duo. And they covered everything you could imagine in Los Angeles from the 80s up all the way to the early 2000s. And in the process, they pioneered the, I guess, the medium or the technique of helicopter reporting. So while doing that, they covered some of the biggest stories that Los Angeles and the world saw during the 90s, including the Los Angeles Riots in 92 and the OJ pursuit of the white Bronco in 94. And so what I used to construct that documentary was their archive. And their archive amounted to about 3,000 beta tapes, which basically look like kind of large VHS tapes. And I digitized that along with my team, their entire archive. And within that archive was exactly that, spectacle and intimacy. And so what you saw was the spectacle of the city, as well as the spectacle of their experience with it. And if you sort of remove the element of what we all see, which is the news, is, or if you look at it from the perspective of the news gatherers, these historical moments and these shocking moments also are very personal moments for these people. And so the camera that they used would also be at home and document their child's first steps or an argument that they had. And I think it was my way of exploring the city that I'm from, but also trying to understand media and how we are surrounded by media. And through this technique, it was a way to sort of personalize it. And the more I got into the story, the more personal the story became, the more intimate it became. And so, anyway, just as an example, I guess I have a couple items, but what I'll show you is just highlighting this this idea of spectacle. These were some of the first objects that I gathered in making the documentary, and it was these VHS tapes that they put out. This one's called Amazing Wipeouts, and then this other one's called Dangerous Rescues. And it was essentially compilations, highlight reels of some of the more insane stuff that they captured. And I think there's probably no better word than spectacle to describe what that was. So now if you imagine basically 3,000 of these in their raw form, and then what we did was digitize it, is we put it, once I digitized it all, I put it into this, which is the thing I really want to show you guys. This is a 48 terabyte hard drive. It's the Otherworld Computing Mercury Elite Pro Quad 48 terabyte drive. And so in this drive is the history of Los Angeles from 1982 to basically 1997, really, 98, but as well as the history of a relationship. And so this piece of this machinery that now holds the archive, for me, it takes on a lot more than just a functional object. It's almost a I don't know what you would call it. It's like a memory box, you know. It's a way to see the world and a way to access somebody's experiences, and particularly when the people were the ones that were holding the camera, the work that you look at is almost a first-person perspective of their journey. And so what that was basically what we were talking about. And so that's what I got for you guys. And I'm happy to talk more about it, but yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Our last person is Jasmine.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks for bringing us together, and it's nice to be with you all. So in my field, I think a lot about performance, and I define performance as embodied actions that are witnessed or watched that are framed in time and space. And I think a lot about how what happens like on TV or on the stage, like what happens in the arts affects my everyday performances. So like how people see Black women on TV and then they put assumptions on my body because of that. And so in this conversation, I'm really thinking a lot about how when we think about spectacle, we can think about like the meanings put on our bodies when we walk through the street. Even I went to a museum a few weeks ago and I was like followed, and like the security guard told me to leave like an hour early, right? Even with my mask on. So like the meanings that are put in our bodies as spectacle, but also how we make our own meanings, and that's like the intimacy in it, and how those things might bump up against each other for change. So I'm going to share with you, I'm showing with you an exercise that I stole from two dance scholars, Megan Quinlan and Natalie Zervo. And it's an exercise I've done on Zoom, but I've also done in person, to think about the spectacle, but also the intimacy of bodies in protest, and how we might think about protest as a performance to enact change. And so I'm going to invite all of you all to do these motions with me. So we can't see you except for the amazing panelists, and I'm inviting our amazing panelists to do them together. And I guess with each motion, what we're going to do, I want you to think about what meanings might other people put on your body. So think about like your body as spectacle, but also think about that intimacy, like what meanings is your body creating? So we'll just do a series of motions, whatever you're comfortable, whatever's available to you. And if it's not available to you, you also can just witness watch, which is also great. Okay, so first motion, I'm going to ask everyone to lean forward. So just like, and again, just think about what meaning might other people put on your body? What meaning is your body making? Next, we're going to pretend as if we're together. This is where it gets awkward, but I love leaning into it. So if it's available to you, I'm going to ask you to stand up, and I want you to act like we're holding hands. So this awkward, I'm going to hold hands with everyone here in this awkward holding hand thing, and think about meanings put in your bodies, meaning your body's making. And then you're going to act like you're holding hands like this. So like that. And then you're going to act like you're holding hands like, or crossing arms like this. So again, thinking about what meanings might other people put on your body, what meanings are your bodies making. Okay, and now we're going to lay on the ground, and I'm going to let out like a really obnoxious ha as I lay on the ground. But as you lay on the ground, think about what meaning is your body making, what meaning are other people put on your body if you were laying on the ground, or if they saw you laying like this. And then just 3 more movements. I'm going to ask you to kneel. So this is like the awkward, you see like our awkward head. So you're going to kneel on one knee and ask yourself what meanings are put on your body right now. What meaning is your body making by kneeling? And then 2 more motions. If it's available to you, stand up again, and you'll put your arms up like this and think about what meaning is your body making? What meaning might other people put on your bodies? And then like this. And so that's an exercise, and then you can sit down. Thank you all. Also, thank you, Bonnie, Haley, and Matt. And then Kayla, do you mind sharing the slideshow real quick? So this is an exercise I've done with students. Again, I stole it from these 2 dance scholars who are really amazing, and who are cited there, and I can send out that link. And you can just go through them like every 5 seconds, the images, or you can go through them really quickly, like every 2 seconds, the images. And so this is like the lunch counter sit-in. And you can think about holding hands during civil rights. Think about like what meanings are put on their bodies. What meanings are their bodies making? Like think about that performance, their own spectacle, but also intimacy in this. Colin Kaepernick, which I think can think endlessly about. And then the last few images here are 1968 Olympics, again, like spectacle and intimacy. There's a really great book by Kevin Quashie that I'll link out about that. And then these last 3 images are from Vegas. So just thinking about like what meanings are being put on these protesters' bodies, but also what meanings are their bodies making. Yeah, so that's all I got.
Thanks so much, Jasmine. That was awesome. Okay, so I think we can all unmute ourselves now. And just a reminder to you all out there, hopefully that's inspired you to gather your objects and sign up to share something with us. You can put that into the Q&A at the bottom. So I guess I'm interested in, I mean, you just talked kind of directly about this, Jasmine, but like whether or not, I guess, Holly and Matt, like, do you think about yourselves like personally as performers, like generally in your daily lives? You talked a little bit about this too, Holly, and how that's maybe changed or not changed kind of right now, you know, how, I guess, how your ideas about performance might have changed in this time when we're doing so many things virtually. And Jasmine, you too, of course.
Where do I start? I guess I'll like go just like back a little bit, and I guess just in my, just what I'm interested in and like what I always think about is like, I'm always thinking about performativity. And a few years ago, just like when I was in school, I was questioning just like with my own identity, like is like inhabiting a Black body or a Black female body, or is inhabiting a Black body an ongoing performance? And just like thinking about just these layers of always having to, maybe like for me at least, like perform and in outperform, but then also other aspects of like feeling like you have to continuously be like this stronger version of yourself all the time, perpetually, and it gets exhausting. And I mean, I think about that in terms of an extra like layer or level in terms of like just my experience with like aspects of disability and those things converging. So I think like, I don't know if I explicitly say like I'm a performer, but I do think that I'm performing all the time in some cases, in a lot of spaces, in a lot of, especially in spaces where you feel like there's no space for real intimacy or vulnerability. Also, like the way things are now with like our screens and everything is pretty interesting too, because you know, I feel like to a certain extent we're all performing for the screen, because we can't help it. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, we kind of do that without the screen. We kind of did that without the screen before. But I do think that the time we're in with this like digital push and with the state of the world, of course, you know, we're performing in different ways, and like intimacy is different. Like this is like, for me, I don't know, like for a minute while I was like watching and like listening, I was like, wait, this is like kind of intimate because you're like literally talking to like a computer screen. But then there's like this weird thing where it's like, oh wait, no, it's not. Or maybe it's not, like, because it's literally just like an object, like you're talking at an object. I don't know. I just like, I feel like I'm like just going all over the place, but just in terms of like performance and performativity, like I'm always thinking about, you know, what you brought up, Jasmine, in your show and tell, what's placed on our bodies, what are ideas that are placed upon us, and what things do we like inhabit and we don't even want to, but we kind of have to. And I think I explore that a lot with like just trying to tease out these like notions of strength and what does that mean, and like different, you know, fake characters or a different persona, and like jumping into different spaces and thinking about all of those things with the idea of performance. But I guess maybe like I feel like I perform all the time, but not in like a, I don't know if this makes sense, but like not in a disingenuous way. It's just like in some spaces and circumstances you have to perform. Like that's what I think.
Well, for me, I think that the idea of over the years, as I've been making videos and films and stuff like that, I never thought of myself as a performer at all. But I actually do now think of that word a lot when I go to shoot something, when I'm on set, or when I'm even making a documentary and I'm out in the world, in that there is a certain, I like to think of it almost like the theater of the world around you is playing out. It's not live for an audience, but it's live for your collaborators or the people that you're interacting with. And so usually if I'm the night before, I'm usually trying to almost get into sort of a meditative state, or reflective state, at least about what it is that I'm doing the next day, what I'm showing up with, what are my goals, and what is the energy that I want to bring to the space that I'm entering into. And so I do think about performance a lot. And then I also think about, and this has been coming to mind more often with documentary subjects, and thinking of them as performers as well. And it's not to say that I don't want them to be authentic, but I do want them to be the best at what it is they're trying to be. And so I try to help them do that. And so, yeah, I do think about performance quite a bit these days. Well, actually, these days, I don't even know what that means anymore. Like when I'm at home, you know, if I'm by myself, I actually been, this is more personal, not like too much information, I hope, but it's just more intimate, so to speak, is that I'm trying to be aware of performing for myself, almost like entertaining myself and taking some pleasure and joy in that. And I've noticed for me, that's talking out loud more often than I ever have, and kind of just being okay with that. And I think that's also been some sort of way for me to workshop creativity and ideas that I have, and just not sort of staying entirely in my headspace, however I can get out of that. So yeah, we're all performing, I guess. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been thinking about clothing, you know, because I don't think of myself as, I mean, generally, I guess maybe sometimes, but generally I don't think of myself as someone who really like dresses that much thinking about other people, or that I'm dressing for other people. But and I guess it's one thing to, you know, maybe you put on like a nice shirt to be on Zoom, you know, but like there are many days when I don't have any calls. I'm not, you know, I don't like post photos of myself on social media. I'm not like seeing anyone on Zoom. I'm not really going out much, you know, outside. And I just, you know, it's like, what am I doing? I'm just wearing like the same thing every single day. Like, was I just, you know, any small amount of variety of clothing before, was that really for the sake of other people? You know, did I really have like 50 pairs of shoes, you know, for the sake of other people? So that's just that's
Funny. It's funny. I did laundry this morning, and like everything was gray. All of my laundry was gray, because it was like the sweatpants I wear every day. But the question I'm thinking a lot about, I've been teaching online, and I'm grateful to have a job since March. And this quarter, which just ended, for most of my classes, I didn't wear makeup. And I felt really like I felt both self-conscious, but I like didn't care. And I would just tell my students, like, I'm not wearing makeup. I haven't showered, like, we're fine. And one day I was teaching Judith Butler, who talks about gender performativity. And I was like so happy because I was like, aha, like I'm not wearing makeup. So I can teach you about like gender as a performance. And it just made, but it's just funny, like how even to getting ready for today, I was like really conscious about like, how do I wear makeup? And especially because not just present, but knowing that this is recorded. And I was literally thinking about the recording. I was like, oh, I should like make sure my skin isn't blotchy for like perpetuity, but not for the intimacy of this conversation.
Yeah.
I caught myself debating what clothes I wanted to wear, and all I was going to be doing was going to a coffee shop just to get a cup of coffee and go back home. That was it was going to be for like 2 people were going to see me. And I was like spending way more time thinking about what I was going to wear than I think it was just almost like it's kind of almost sad actually, because it's suddenly that's an event, you know? And so I don't know if it's sad or just it's like the world has gotten so small that something that I wouldn't even think twice about, I'm like, I'm just going to go run and get a cup of coffee. Now I'm kind of like, what, I'm going to go outside. So what kind of shirt do I want to put on? But you can tell I'm probably not the most fashionable person. So there wasn't too much decision making going on, but the thought crossed my mind.
Well, you have a fashionable curtain.
Yeah, it is very fashionable. Very.
That does all the work for me. And then I just keep
Art
it.
direction is on point.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
But I forget who brought it up, but like just talking about fashion, I feel like in some aspects, like fashion is a performance for me, where it's like you can like perform for yourself, and then you kind of reclaim. For me, at least, it feels like in that performativity and like performing for yourself, it feels like this reclaiming of your own like body and self, at least for me, where in a lot of situations it's felt like a lot of times, or just even like where people have felt like they've had like what's the word, like entitlement to, like an entitlement to a woman's body or whatever. Just like it feels like that's kind of my way of kind of pushing back a little, is just like reclaiming my space and myself with fashion. And yeah, I think that's fun, and also just a really endless place to explore. What else? I was gonna say something, but I forgot. It was like
I have a question. I was wondering if you guys, just on the note of sort of, gosh, I feel like I'm not even talking about like the work that whatever. I'm just wondering now, I think this ties into Jasmine, the work that you do, based on at least that exercise that we just did. Do you find yourself doing versions of that while you're in quarantine? Does it serve some sort of, do you do exercises like that? I mean, I'm almost thinking about how, now like I'll try to exercise when I wake up in the morning. Are you doing also sort of performative exercises are you doing that kind of on a regular basis?
I'm like I have the Peloton app, and like for a while I was on it like all the time, but I haven't worked out for like a week and a half.
Sorry, that wasn't a question about fitness. I was just thinking about.
So I teach that exercise, and actually in my classes, like we do a lot of like Zoom, and like I've done a lot of things where like Zoom things where like you go like this or just like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting to me now too, like what you said, is I'm an extrovert. So like this quarantine, I know it's been shitty for all of us, but I went out to this museum a few weeks ago, and it was like the first time going out, and I was so excited. And then this like white woman was following me around, and I've read a lot about how for a lot of marginalized people, I know this is not true for everyone, how like this quarantine has been somewhat of a relief to like be in your own space. And so it like, for me, it just validated that like there has been, even though I like, you know, this world sucks and it's shitty, I miss seeing people. But those exercises, I think it's, I don't know, we do them in my Zoom classes. And I have like students lead warm-ups in my Zoom classes. And like, I've done warm-ups with students where we like all yell at the same time on Zoom. Cause like how, you know, you do it right now, like Zoom will prioritize and it just like sounds like a mess.
Yeah.
But I haven't thought about, I obviously it's related to the outside, but I haven't like fully connected it. So sorry to not answer your question.
No, that's interesting. And I think that there are creative possibilities all the time, but in the way that things are set up, the way we frame ourselves, and the way we're choosing to shoot ourselves, we're all doing interview basically.
I should say this, Matt. I went to a really good play, and I can link it out. My friend Nikki Yaboa is a playwright. She wrote this play called The Mothers. She's in the Bay Area, and she interviewed 4 mothers who had lost their children, 4 mothers of color whose children had been murdered by the police in San Jose. And it's like a documentary theater play. And so she had the play in September, and she had actors, and they all were like in their home. And so like they all set the play in their kitchen, and it was like their children's birthday. So like they were like blowing, it was like I was like sobbing. And at the end of the Zoom play, they zoomed in the actual mothers that they interviewed. And I thought it was like just such a moving use of Zoom, because like they were like picking up and they're like walking through their house telling about the children of their kids, the stories of their kids that had been murdered. And so I thought that was a really effective, I've been to a lot of Zoom plays, and some of them are horrible in part because we're just tired, but some of them I think are really effective when they think about like this.
I thought just like going back to what you mentioned about like being followed, it kind of like just sparked a thought in my head. But basically, like, I guess in thinking about this panel too, like I have been thinking about like, you know, feeling like you're the spectacle, you know, like when you go in certain spaces and you can feel like that presence or the eyes, and you can feel the onlooking, and you feel as if you're the spectacle within a space. So I think about that a lot, especially, yeah, I think about that a lot. Just so many moments like growing up and in my adulthood where it has felt like there's this perpetual onlooking, or certain moments that are so heightened that feel like they are a spectacle, but you're the spectacle, and it's endless, or it doesn't end until you leave the space. And then I also wanted to like kind of hit on, I mean, this is a little bit separate, but Bonnie, how you were talking about, is it a performance if you're performing by yourself? And I feel like yes, because I guess in my practice, like also just separate from, you know, performing with other people, it's mainly, it kind of feels just like this intimate performance with myself. And, you know, especially with like the photography that I do, which is mostly, but not like limited to self-portrait, but also just even in the, you know, performance scores or trying to figure out how a performance is going to be, it feels like this very intimate space of where you're kind of by yourself, but there is a performance still happening. It's just that nobody's watching. There's no onlooker, so then it doesn't become a spectacle. And then sometimes I wonder if like, or not sometimes I wonder, but I feel like that's like might be one of the core aspects of what I'm doing, like the action of creating these like these spaces or scenarios where I am performing, but there's no audience. And maybe in some cases there are in like live performances, but it's a whole different experience when there's like the layer of the onlooking is not there. It feels safer.
I wanted to add, they're making me think about something, and it's linking to Matt's question too, about like that work you do without audience, how both that's work in itself, but that also might inform work with audience. And like, this is a tiny anecdote. There's this was like probably 7 years ago, this performer, Ryan Mitchell in Seattle, is like an experimental performance artist. And he did this, he had this group called Saint Janae, and he did this performance every night. He would, in the morning, he would be 30 miles away from Seattle. He would drink a bottle of wine and put leeches on his body and then walk 30 miles and then get to the performance venue and do the performance.
Yeah.
And so before every performance, he had this like solo ritual
Mhm.
of like getting drunk and leeching himself and walking. And I think about it all the time. I'm like always thinking about it, like how it was like by himself, but also that informed like what audiences saw. So sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, it's all good. Like open discussion. I feel like, yeah, I mean, so much comes to my mind, but also just like, is it a performance? Isn't it a performance with just like the level of, you know, intimacy and also like, I mean, everybody probably always thinks about this, but like when we're talking about, you know, performance, of course, like it depends on what it is, but like when does the performance end? I think about that all the time. Like, when do performances end, or when do you stop performing, or just things like that. And that those can be like logistical questions, like for a performance, or just constantly think about that. I think about that all the time.
Existential questions. Right?
Yeah, like someone else can jump in. I think I'm still like trying to figure out what I was gonna.
I'm about to go do a costume change, so
I think we actually have a bunch of volunteers.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were pressured by me or other people, but maybe we can pull some of these people in. Layla, can you help with that? I guess I don't know what order to go with. Maybe we can just start at the bottom.
The chat is popping off, though. I'll say that.
Okay. It looks like we have Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Should I go right now?
Yes, please. Show us and tell us.
I brought my mandolin. It's like a slicer. And I'm not sure how it relates right now to intimacy, but I think I bought this because of like Top Chef. And I've been watching a lot of Top Chef recently. I mean, like for months now, pretty much. And I've already seen, I think, every episode of Top Chef. So I'm just rewatching at this point. And they use the mandolin a lot. And it's a tool that I don't personally use a lot because I'm really scared of cutting my hand. And I remember once I was on Instagram just looking up the hashtag for mandolin, trying to get some inspiration for like vegetables. But people had posted wounds as well. So I had to not look at that anymore. I think I also bought this maybe to make like a ratatouille. So I think that's also wrapped up in like the spectacle of the cartoon. Maybe, yeah, intimacy, I'm not sure. Cooking, I guess, is intimate, but again, I don't cook a lot with this. And I also bought these gloves that are called no cry gloves that work with a mandolin, but luckily I haven't sliced myself enough to cry. So it does work.
But cooking is performative though, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's that you're engaging with that, I think.
Well, I'm not engaging with this tool.
Yeah, you're warming up towards it. You're like, yeah. You have to sort of dance between it right now. So
yes.
The tension though, like I'm like interested in this tension with the intimacy of like using the object and then this glove that's like, I don't know.
I should have brought the glove. The glove is just in the drawer. I only got one.
I know. I'm just saying like, I don't know.
Right. The glove is like anti using the instrument.
Like,
and like the, not to be like, but like I love using mandolin, but I've been cut before, and like that wound is intimate. And then like you like look at it as it heals, and like you think about it, and then you're like, with it.
And the blood could gets in your food. So that's hard, for me.
Or necessary.
That's intimate. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Karen.
You're welcome.
Okay, who's up next? Hi, Debbie Ann. Are you there? I guess,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, I can't see myself, but anyway, I'll just tell you. I traveled from United States to Australia. I traveled from United States to Australia, and I had to stay in a hotel for 14 days without leaving, just me and my partner, which was very intimate. And then I started painting these watercolors of myself and sharing them on the internet and getting feedback, and then painting another one the next day. And so I have those self-portraits to show you.
Cool.
Awesome.
Just like, it might be a little hard to see.
Wow.
But,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
and then each day I would do a different one
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
based on the feedback I got from people. And I painted it on these paper bags that they delivered our food in.
Yeah.
And so I had endless supply of paper and endless time to make lots of self-portraits.
These
Wow.
are
Because that's the only thing.
I love
there's
this.
just a lot of these.
I love also the day, like day 9, that you have like the day.
Yeah.
written on.
Yes, because there were no days of the week to me, and there was nothing but counting the days of quarantine. And so there's just all these portraits. I don't know what to do with them now, but
We'll keep
it
them.
was a great experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like, the magician like pulling endless scarves out of a hat.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
how you can just like they just keep going, Awesome. Thanks so much, Debbie Ann.
Thanks.
Next we have, who do we have next? Angie, my sister Angie. Yay. Hi.
Hi, hello.
Hey.
Do you remember this?
Oh, I do. I do.
Yeah, so I'm showing and telling this album that Bonnie gave me. I think it was actually for my wedding, I think. It's a Foreigner album, Head Games. And I just have always liked Foreigner as a band because my parents, especially my mom, who's probably listening right now, she also liked Foreigner a lot. And so I think Bonnie gave me this album and also a Journey album. And so I have both of those framed. And yesterday I was downstairs in my office and I was just like wandering around with Sophie, my older daughter, and we were just trying to figure out something to show and tell. And she was like, what about this? I was like, oh yes, this is perfect. Because I used to have it up and I used to put it in the bathroom actually, because I really liked this illustration of this girl who's sitting on a urinal and she has this toilet paper. And then like yesterday, I really started to look at it. I was like, I don't know about this illustration. It makes me like a little bit uncomfortable now. So I looked it up and I guess this is actually an illustration of this model actor, Lisanne Falk, who was in Heathers, one of my favorite all-time movies. And she was like 15 years old when they did this illustration of her when she was like a child model. So it was
Wait, can you hold it up to the camera a little bit more?
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with this. As I said, I used to have it in my bathroom, but now I just feel like a little uncomfortable about it. So it might just keep sitting in my office for a while.
That evoked a childhood memory for me because my when I was a kid with my brothers and my mom, I was at El Pollo Loco, and my youngest brother was like just old enough to go to the bathroom by himself, like just old enough. And he was gone a little too long. So I went to go check on him, and I went in there and he was sitting up on one of those urinals trying to use it like a toilet, and his legs were dangling. It's like such a vivid memory of him. So that image actually makes me feel, it makes me happy because it reminds me of my brother Nick.
Yeah, I was always really proud of myself because I would always go use the guys' bathroom, like whenever there's a line for the girls' bathroom, and this like caused a lot of, you know, drama and everything. It was something I was proud of. But yeah, now when I like look really closely at that girl's face, I'm just like, I don't really know what this is about or what's happening here. So yeah, just kind of questioning that. But I was excited to read up about Heather's and everything. So that was exciting. So thanks, Bonnie.
Awesome, thank you. Next up, Megan, my co-fellow Megan. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Nice apartment.
Thanks. So I'm a fellow here with Bonnie right now, and if like I touch the wall, she's on the other side of the wall, which feels really magical to me. Okay, I know. Okay, so can you see this? It might look backwards to you. I've been doing some work with the curator Essence Hardin. She's an Octavia Butler scholar, and she showed me this photo of an index card that Butler apparently carried around that said, "What specifically did the desert teach me?" And she told me about this in August, right when Bonnie and I first got to Vegas. And so I wrote it down on my own index card and I taped it to the wall, and I've been staring at it, like waiting for the great epiphany. I'm a Chicagoan, right? And this is my first time in the desert. We've been here now 6 months and we're getting ready to leave. And I've been waiting like for the desert to give me this great thing. And it's given me so many things. And I've been thinking a lot about just needing to, like how everything doesn't come to us all at once, that we need to have patience, and we'll figure out the meaning that we're supposed to come to. But part of what I'm showing this card for is the meaning that's written on it, but also part of it is just the mere fact of an index card itself. I've been thinking a lot about stuff. My husband left right before the pandemic, and in March I did the breakup move. Maybe some of you listening have done this same move where you walk through your home and you stand in front of the art and the books and the furniture and all of these memories, and you say, do I want this thing? Like, what is this going to do to my heart if I keep it? What of all of this is me, and what was us? And how do these objects illustrate a person or a relationship? And in the end, I didn't really take any of it. I put my books in a friend's basement, and I took 2 laptops, one for my remote work and one for my 12-year-old son's remote middle school. And he and I have been on the road since March. And so since I was sitting and listening to all of you talk about intimacy, I am like, my gears are turning now about so much of what intimacy is right now is the people that we're locked up with. And I've been locked up with a very brilliant, smart, empathetic 12-year-old who has headphones on behind me and is playing Minecraft with like 7 other children from all around the world, which is a whole entire bonkers thing. But everything that has happened in these 6 months, a global pandemic, a racial uprising centuries in the making, a near fascist overtake of the, et cetera, all of it I've had to kind of put through the lens of a child. I mean, a very, very smart child, but still, I've been thinking a lot about how that has shaped my understanding of the world and where we're sitting right now. And not just my understanding of the world, but also how I teach and how I write and how I think and how I vote and how I throw my body in the street, and how this is going to be a thing that has changed me forever in these ways. So thank you.
Wait, could you read the
index card?
Yeah.
Yes, it says, "What specifically did the desert teach me?" Does it look backwards? It looks backwards.
No.
Okay. I just like forgot for a split second.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you. Hi, Bonnie.
Okay, we're getting kicked off here.
Oh man.
So Layla's gonna do the honors.
I see the costume change.
I know.
Oh,
We see it, Matt.
Oh, yes.
I was hoping that I would spark that for at least Hallie back there, but I guess that'll have to wait.
I didn't want to like blurt out, oh, costume change. Well, like.
Thank you for joining us thank you everyone for joining us, and to Bonnie and our special guests. As a reminder, buy Bonnie's book, All Roads Lead to Blood, and check out our special guest work through the links in the chat. If you like this interactive component of our program, The Believer magazine's last comic workshop is this Friday, December 4th. And lastly, this Wednesday, join us as essayists Samantha Irby and BMI Shearing Fellow Megan Steelstra discuss how to keep moving forward when all you want to do is launch your laptop into the sun. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.